Behold, the king of pop. It's not Michael Jackson, but I think he shared the same name with this lens. This is the Sony Zeiss 55 1.8 FE lens. It's a legendary lens and it renders so absolutely fantastic. It is always my go-to lens in the Sony system. Right now we got the Sony A7S, the first model, with this Sony Zeiss 55 1.8, and as you can see, I hope you can, and I hope that I'm in focus because the autofocus of the A7S is not that reliable, but you should see tremendous amount of depth around me. I should be popping out of this picture, what you see right now, of this video. So, of course I wrote down all the specs for this lens, but of course I left the piece of paper inside, but I will add these specs right here in this video so that you can see. And this lens has, I believe, 7 elements only and 5 groups, and this will give us round about 1.4, I think exactly 1.4 in the lens to group ratio, and it has a very good dispersion also. It has only 2 complex groups divided by 7 elements. It's a very good ratio. So this lens gives a tremendous amount of pop, and it is, in my opinion, the most poppy lens for Sony as far as I know about, right? So there are another size lenses like the Batis series, the Batis 85 for example, and we already saw the Batis 25. But none of these lenses have the same amount of pop that this lens has. I really like this lens. It's a perfect lens. It's, well, the focal length of 55mm is alright on full frame, so we should have a good image. And now I will mount this lens to the Sony a6700 and we will see if we have any difference in the pop factor, because as you already know, the Sony a7S has a pixel pitch of 8.9, I believe, micrometers, while the Sony a6700 only has 3.79 micrometers pixel pitch. So the image here should be softer and should have a shallower depth of field. Of course it is because of the larger sensor, but also the rendering, the tonality of this sensor is way better in my opinion than on the a6700, and we will see in the next clip. Now we switched to the Sony a6700. I think the image should look identical, at least nearly identical. Do we see any difference? As I said, the Sony a6700 has about 25 megapixels crammed into an APS-C sensor. So the pixel pitch is way lower, is way shorter than on the A7S. I personally think that the image will not look as nice as on the A7S. The same lens though. This is a full frame lens now on an APS-C sensor, so this lens produces, well, I would say a picture according to the larger size of the full frame sensor. And now we only see, well, a fraction of the picture the lens produces. I think this matters also. We have not so shallow depth of field, and because the pixel pitch is lower, we should not have a nice image like with the A7S. We should not. There maybe is some pop to a degree, but not as much as on the A7S. But there's something interesting about another lens that I will mount now to the a6700. It has the exact same ratio, dispersion and elements to group ratio. We will see how this lens performs. This is the TT Artisan 25mm f2. It's a very cheap lens. You can get it for about $70 to $80, depends on where you buy it. This lens has the exact same specs as the Zeiss 55 1.8 for Sony. Do we see something? Do we see any pop whatsoever? Is it a nice rendering? Do we see tonality? Well, what do we expect? When we just look at the sheet, we have 7 elements in 5 groups also, and we have 2 complex groups divided by 7. We have the same, like 0.28, I believe it is. And this lens should give us a tremendous amount of tonality and 3D pop. We should have micro contrast. Of course, the glass is not as good, so of course the elements inside of this lens cannot be as good as in the much more expensive lenses like the Batis or the 55 1.8. It cannot be for the price. I really like this lens. Well, it has no autofocus. Chances are I'm not in focus. But if I am, I think we should have some good tonality and some 3D pop. And this lens produces some weird, well, it has a little bit of a weird bokeh. And sometimes of course there are aberrations, but there's no correction in it, so there has to be an aberration at least. Yeah. But it also produces some weird light effects. It is usable. I use it a lot on Fuji. I have lenses of TT Artisan on Fuji, and I'm pretty confident with these lenses. I really like them. They produce great and sharp images. But do they have the pop? Do they have a little bit of depth? Do they have? I don't know. I'm not quite sure. On Fuji, I think I see it. On Sony, the sensor has a low pixel pitch distance, right? I do not think that we will see a lot of pop with these lenses. But technically, they should have and produce a good amount of pop. Unfortunately, I cannot mount these lenses to the full-frame camera, at least not by using the whole sensor, because these lenses are just made for APS-C. So, what do you think? Which lens did you like the most? Was it a TT Artisan or the Zeiss 55 1.8? Let me know in the comments down below if you saw it and what your opinion about these lenses is. See you in the next one.